today I wanted to do a video that I wanted to do for ages, but I've put on hold because I felt like I needed a little bit more experience. Now, I wanted to do a first impressions of America video coming from a British person's point of view. Although we're both very similar countries, there are certain things that are quite different and I found quite interesting, and I wanted to talk about it. So the first time I ever went to America was when I was 18 months old, and I don't remember a thing from that time. So the second time I went was in September when I went to Florida, and I thought I can't really do a first impressions of America in Florida because Florida is Florida. It's like tourism central. Then I went to New York, and again I felt like New York was, well, New York is really big. It's kind of like London in the sense that it's sort of like its own thing. But recently I went to California and I did a Trek America, and I went from LA to San Francisco and a few places in between. So I felt after then I would have a little bit more of a wider idea of America. And now I love America, so this is no way going to be dissing America at all. There's just some things that I find kind of interesting, maybe kind of weird, and also quite good at the same time. So I wrote a list on my phone when I was there of things that I noticed that we don't have at home, you know, that's quite interesting. Here we go. Number one. I think it's really cool that when you order a drink, like in a restaurant, they always bring straws. Like in the UK, if you order a Diet Coke, you get it in a glass, or if you order a water, you just get a glass. They don't bring fucking straws. And the waitress will have them in like a little apron thing and pull them out, or sometimes they'll have the straws already in the drink and they'll have like little bits of paper on top just to show that they're like new straws and no one's put their mouth around them. I think it's really cool. I always want a straw to have a drink, mainly because I normally have lipstick on and I don't want to have watery, smudgy, lipsticky lips, so that's why I enjoy having a straw. Also, the drinks are usually massive. Like, you ask for a Coke and it comes in like a fucking great big pitcher thing. It's massive, and a lot of the time they will refill them. They seem to quite frequently put gherkins on the top of the sandwich. Like, they'll have a cocktail stick through the sandwich and then they'll put a gherkin on it. Now, I love gherkins, so this is always a nice surprise for me. I've been to a few different sandwich places and they all like put gherkins on their sandwiches. It's just a nice touch. Tipping. Tipping is kind of a big subject. In the UK, we don't generally tip. Like, tipping isn't a thing for us. If we go out for food, we'll leave a few pounds behind for the waitress or waiter if we've got any spare change or whatever. But that's generally it, I'd say. In America, you tip them for like everything, and this is really confusing at first. So I understand that in America, like people that work in services or waiters or barmen, anyone that works in that kind of industry, they get paid shit all, and so they really depend on their tips. And at first I've noticed a few Brits be like, I'm not tipping them for pouring me a pint, but generally the consensus is when you go for a drink at a bar in America, you leave like an extra $1 or $2 down if you order a drink. I didn't really understand this at first, and I was like leaving $5 a time down and was complaining that this bar was really expensive. Like, I was like, oh, drinking in America is really expensive. But I think it was Evan at Playlist Live told me that that was way too much and you should only really leave $1. But yeah, you also tip like the maids that come into your room when they clean your hotel room out, anyone that helps you with your luggage, anyone that basically helps you and it's their job to help you, you tip. But also I find funny, so obviously yes, the tipping thing is granted and you're supposed to tip people, but being British and really fucking awkward, the whole giving someone a tip is so weird. For example, we were told when we did a paddleboarding class that we should tip the instructor at the end of the class, and all of us were like, here you go, here's some money, thank you very much. It was just because we feel awkward because we're not used to it. It's just we make kind of a big deal out of it, and it just feels a bit like, here you go, here's some money. We all felt a bit awkward doing it, but I understand in America it's so normal. And that leads me on to my next point, which is paying. Now, when I first went to a restaurant in America, I was really like worried because they come along and they just give you your bill when you're nearly done. You put your card down and then they take your card away and you're like, hey, what are you doing? Because normally in the UK, they bring like the chip and pin reader along and you put your card in and you do that. Or you obviously leave the cash. They went off with my card and I was really worried. I thought, oh my God, what if they're stealing my bank details? What if they're writing all the numbers down and then later they're gonna go online shopping? Obviously they can't do that. But I just found it really unusual that they take your card away, they bring it back, and then on the check, you write down how much you want to tip and then the total, and then you sign it. This took me a while to get my head around. Now it makes perfect sense. It was just a bit unusual at first. I was like, what do I do? What am I doing here? And I felt like an absolute fool, and I was like, just couldn't function how to pay for something. But for other things, like in shops, the amount of times my card got declined because they swiped it and my bank didn't like it over here in the UK, so I had to put it all through like manually. There's just so many ways to pay for things. You can swipe, you can chip it in, you can put your number in manually, obviously pay by cash. And also it is kind of worrying that they do just slide your card down and you've paid for something a lot of the time. I mean, a lot of places are asking for ID and obviously they also ask for a signature, but I thought I could totally steal someone's card and just go shopping. One thing I noticed was toilet cubicles are massive. They're just fucking huge. There were some toilets where I thought you could probably squeeze in an extra 2 cubicles in this whole toilet block if you made the toilets a little bit smaller. The automatic flushes in a lot of toilets are kind of scary. A few times it flushed when I was still on the toilet and had to kind of sit up and do some awkward squat wee thing. You know, I had to try and stop myself because I didn't want to get a really wet bum. Also, what I really like about the toilets is that they suck the water out, like they suck everything down rather than pushing extra water down. Because ours add water to push down whatever's in there, and in America they kind of sucks it out. If you go for a big poo and you're scared it's not gonna flush, it's fucking fine, because it will. The car parks in America are amazing. The car park spaces are in diagonals, which makes perfect sense. Like ours are just straight on, which means when you drive into them, you have to literally, or reverse. In America, you literally drive straight in and it's easy peasy. And then if you want to get out, you just reverse out and then you go forwards. That, to me, makes so much sense, and I just don't understand why we don't have that here. You're all set. That phrase was said an awful lot. Usually when you've paid up your bill, you're all set. I love that. That's what I was getting quite a lot from some people. You're all set. Oh, thank you. Crossing the road takes forever. Obviously not allowed to jaywalk, so you have to walk on the allocated crossings. But it just felt like crossing the road, for me, took so long. The little white man that comes on to tell you to walk, like, for some reason it just seemed to take ages and it was a real chore. But I don't know, I did sort of go off and cross the road at times, but I did ask whether it was really bad to do that, and most people said no. Waiters are so nice. Linking this back to the tipping thing, because obviously most of them are working on like a tip-in thing. The waiters are just so nice, and when you go somewhere and they're like, hello, how are you? What can I get you? And you're like, oh, I want everything. I want you. The service is amazing. Like pretty much everywhere you go, the service was so good. Apart from a few places in New York, people are really rude. Like it just felt like they just wanted you dead. Like I thought you were really inconveniencing them, but everywhere else, just really nice. The sidewalks, or the footpaths, are really wide. I like this because it means that you can get more people down it and it's easier to walk down, and they're just nicer. They're just really smooth and level, which is important. Lots of ours are really like higgled. I really like the sidewalks. There's so much choice. Supermarkets, it's like a day out. I love going into American supermarkets because there's so much there. Like, it's just exciting because there's so much food and stuff that we would never have. And like, just going out and about and buying stuff, there's always a lot of choice. There's always a lot of stuff. I really like how I noticed, especially in the theme parks and a few times in New York, how family orientated people are. I thought it was really cute going to Disney World and seeing people in matching t-shirts saying like the Wilson family reunion. I feel like there's there's more emphasis on family in America and doing like family activities. I could be wrong, but that's the impression I got. Okay, and the last thing, which is quite funny, is the adverts. The adverts in America come on so often and they last forever. I find the health adverts really funny. There would be prevention of stroke medicine or random medication that did random things that they'd advertise, and they'd have like some guys golfing and it'd be a big narration of, are you worried about having a heart attack or a stroke? And they'd say all these things, but then after they've advertised it, they would then have to go through all the bits like, may cause death, don't take if you're diabetic, don't take if you're doing this, blah 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 blah. It's quite funny. I just found it quite interesting. The only thing that we advertise in England are like heartburn pills, painkillers, and like, I don't know, if you've got piles or something. But their health adverts seem to be really intense. That was what I noticed about America. There's gonna be lots of other things as well. Like, America is just such a big, shiny place. Well, obviously the cities are really big and shiny and like are huge. You have loads and loads of things going on. They're really vibrant. But then also when I was in the countryside and I was camping, I loved that all the campsites were really equipped for camping. In England, they're fucking shit, our campsites. But I just like it. You could tell that people like to go in the outdoors and are way more recreational. Just like that kind of, there's a lot of tradition elements and kind of just have your own sort of fun, and everyone just seems a little bit more up for things. But yeah, that is it, everybody. I hope you enjoyed my video, and Americans, I think you're cool. Thanks for watching, goodbye!